Okay, it looks like we are live on air. Hi, everybody. I'm David Browner. I'm the lead founder of IGotBirds.com, and I'm here with the director of 24 by 36. It's a documentary on movie poster art and illustration. Kevin Burke is here. Hi, Kevin.
Hey Dave, thanks for having me on, man.
And I've also got my co-host, my trusty co-host, who helps me out when I'm buffering all over the place, Tim McKenna. Tim, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. How's it going?
It's going. It's going. So, Kevin, let's get started with the idea, the genesis of 24 by 36. What gave you that idea? What led you to want to do a documentary on movie poster art and illustration?
Well, funnily enough, it started with a academic lecture that my fiance was doing on the history of horror movie posters. And so there's a really amazing lecture series here in Toronto that's based entirely around horror. So they'll have lectures on, Bigfoot and Yetis and monsters like that, or found footage films. It's called the Black Museum. It's really awesome. For anybody in Toronto, I really recommend you check it out. And so my fiance was doing a lecture on the history of horror movie poster art, and we found out that a couple of our favorite artists, Gary Pullen, Jason Edmiston, and Justin Erickson, also known as Phantom City Creative, lived here in the city of Toronto. So we reached out to them, and everyone was quite busy, but we got a chance to interview Gary Pullen and include it as part of my fiance's lecture. And we'd been collecting posters for about 3 years, and it went so well, and we had so much fun just kind of chatting with Gary about poster art that we kind of kicked the ball around and had this idea to create a documentary on movie poster art. Originally, it was going to focus strictly on kind of the newer alternative film poster art, but it's really become something else entirely. Like, it's really become a grand kind of historical timeline of illustrated movie poster art and its evolution. And so that's where it all started.
And you've gone all over the country to interview different illustrators and different artists, different gallery owners. I know that you took a trip recently to Mondo, and then I think, if I'm correct, you went out west to California to interview some people.
Yeah, that's right. It's been it's all over North America so far, actually, and we're going to be headed to the UK as well before everything's tied up in a nice little bow. But yeah, we visited Austin twice. We were very fortunate to speak with Justin Ishmael at Mondo. The guys at Mondo were great, very cordial with us, and we spoke with a lot of fantastic artists out there. Todd Slater, Tim Doyle, we spoke with so many of them. I mean, there's too many to list. The credits in our film are going to take me a good 5 days alone just to do that in post-production. But following that, we came back. We had some more filming in Toronto with a lot of local artists out here. We went out to LA, visited Hero Complex Gallery, spoke with a lot of artists out there as well, and also with some good friends of a lot of famous old poster artists who passed on, like Richard Amsel, who created one of the amazing, iconic Indiana Jones posters. Friends and family of John Alvin, who I'm an enormous fan of, who created the original Blade Runner poster, original E.T. and Gremlins posters as well. And then, of course, some artists who are currently working, within the Hollywood studio system to create art, like Akiko Sterenberger, who I'm an enormous fan of. We met in LA, and she's super sweet and awesome, and recommended a bunch of rad Mexican food places to us, which was great. And then in August, we're going to be touring through the eastern United States. We're going to be talking with, again, too many to list, but among them Chris Garofalo, who I know that you guys spoke with. I'm very excited to meet and talk to. We'll be speaking with John Alvin's widow, Andrea Alvin. A ton of poster posse artists, which I'm really excited to talk to. Scott Hopko, Robert Bruno, Orlando, Aaron Gallagher, and we're also going to be speaking with Tom Whalen and Dave Perillo, which is fantastic. And there's there's a few others. It's going to be a big trip, but we're really excited for it, and things just keep kind of rolling along, and this story is coming together so well, really in a way that I never thought possible, and I really think that fans are just going to be blown away by it. I'm really excited.
So let me ask you this. Are you going to have enough footage for 3 movies, or is this just going to be 1 movie?
In all honesty, when the DVD comes out, there will probably be like a whole special feature section full of enough to fill up at least another feature-length film. I mean, I've got, just looking at data-wise, I've got 6 terabytes of footage already, and I've got hours and hours of stuff to comb through when we go into post-production. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I love editing, and it kind of gives me a chance to revisit all of that stuff, you know.
Wow. I just want to jump in real quick and be like, your fiance was doing a lecture on horror movie posters?
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. Man, my fiance started all of this. She's super awesome. She actually first got me into collecting this art a few years ago. For Christmas, she got me Ollie Moss's "There Will Be Blood." That was my first screen print, and that really reminded me of I started collecting screen prints, and it reminded me of a time when I was a kid. Things were really different. Like, the video stores were locally owned, the movie theaters were locally owned, and I used to go to the movie theaters and the video stores, and they used to have waiting lists where, like, kids would put their names down on a waiting list for a certain poster, and if the first kid on the list didn't pick it up when he was called, then they went to the next kid on the list. And I used to collect these posters. And then, a lot of things changed in not just the way that films were marketed in terms of the way that they make the posters and sell the movies. This is the official studio art anyway. But also just in the landscape of going to the movies, there were a lot of changes. And I think a lot of really interesting things happen at the same time. And those are some of the themes that we explore within the film as well.
Wow, that's amazing. You really touched on something here about, like, the changing landscape of how we actually go to movies. Having a conversation earlier today, I guess the other day was like the 20th anniversary of the O.J. Simpson, like, white Bronco thing, all just done. Everything was caught on television, and back then the internet really wasn't a thing. Like, it was there. I think everyone was inundated with like 20,000 of those AOL. Hey, get this, this for internet, and the internet wasn't a thing. And now you talk like that many years ago, the movie-going experience then was changing, but for the most part, it kind of stayed the same. But you look at the landscape today, and you've got companies like Netflix that are doing original programming for television shows. I mean, what's the next step for them to do original, full-length feature films completely through their platform? And then how does this change for the artists that are helping to promote these films by doing these posters? Like, how does that really change? And that's something that you say you're kind of talking about, was like how technology now today has actually kind of changed the movie-going experience.
Yeah, and I think that personally, I think that collectorship has become. I mean, even with old one sheets, collectorship of movie posters has been around for a long, long time. But and again, this is just my personal opinion. A lot of people who we speak with in the film have very unique and differing opinions. But I mean, at least for me, from my perspective, collecting screen prints really, I think that somewhere subconsciously is my way of not wanting movie posters to die, not wanting movie marketing to die off, because it's something that I remember very fondly. And you're right, you know, people can go on Netflix and now it's just a little thumbnail. So you know, where will studios go? Even if I mean, I don't think that cinemas are ever going to disappear entirely. I think that there's something inherently amazing and wonderful in the very linguistic sense of the word wonderful, where, you know, it's you walk in and you just experience a great deal of awe. And so I don't think that's going anywhere. But do the posters have the impact that they used to when you can see all these little thumbnails on Netflix? Probably not. But to collectors who want that art and they want to keep it and they want to have it and keep it on their walls, like, I don't have enough walls, and that's part of my driving force to you know, be successful at anything, is just to have more walls to hang poster art on. You know, that's why I buy lottery tickets. Just buy more walls.
You know, Kevin, I was talking to you, right? We were talking a little bit before the broadcast went live, and you know, one of the things that you helped me do without really knowing it was getting the blog started, because I really stumbled across the Kickstarter for 24 by 36, and it was pretty much a complete accident that I stumbled upon it, and I thought, man, this is awesome. Like, here's this guy, you know, obviously has a love for the scene and a love for posters and illustration, and is just doing it. Like, he's just going out there and doing it, interviewing people and talking with people whose work he enjoys. And I thought to myself, you know, I've been wanting to start a website. I'd always been a collector. I've collected comic books since I was a little kid. And I really got supercharged and excited about the poster art scene. And I had known about Mondo a little bit here and there, but I hadn't really invested a lot of time in finding out, you know, well, there was more beyond just Mondo, that there were illustrators all over the country, all over the world, that are doing work and doing great work. And so I decided to start the blog. And really, one of my first big supporters of the blog was yourself, Kevin. So, you know, for that, I definitely thank you for your support of the blog and you know, kind of getting the word out there that I was interviewing people. And I think you would even give me some recommendations, like, hey, you know, maybe you should interview this person or that person. And, you know, for me, it was fantastic. And the blog is still going strong. And, you know, we're trying to branch out a little bit. So my question to you is, do you see the scene growing in terms of, you know, when you started the Kickstarter, I didn't feel like the scene was as big as it is now. I mean, now you have, you know, James Gunn is retweeting people's illustrations for Guardians of the Galaxy, and you know, you've got all these directors now and actors on Twitter who see this work and are saying, hey, you know, this stuff's great. Let me share this with the people that I'm connected with on social networking. You know, it just seems to me like the scene is just growing exponentially. Do you see that happening?
I do, yeah, and I part of me wonders how much of it is, I guess, just my knowledge of of the industry and the artists kind of growing as things come along, because you always encounter someone new who might not even necessarily be, you know, a new illustrator, but maybe someone whose work you just hadn't noticed before or something like that. And then that all you know, it kind of adds up as well. But definitely, I've seen a lot more blogs, definitely a lot more media attention over the past year too. And I mean, I really don't think that shows any sign of stopping either. But I mean, as long as great work continues to be produced, I mean, there's so many incredible companies, galleries, and artists even independently outside of galleries and companies creating their own art and putting it online. I mean, you've got Odd City Entertainment, of course, and Mondo in Austin, Texas. Scuzzles here in Ottawa, Canada, who are just amazing, amazing guys. Chris and Brock, who run Scuzzles, are just super rad dudes, and they're always putting out great work. And of course, Gray Matter Art, who just came onto the scene recently and just like is killing it with absolutely amazing art. And they were, you know, they spoke with us through the Kickstarter as well as how I was first introduced to Mike Gregory and Jared, who are absolutely incredible guys. We're going to speak with them when we go to New York. And they came on board to executive produce, just really fantastic dudes. And so it's really, you see it growing more and more every day. And I think that there's a difficulty there, like there is in any industry. The only stake that I have as a fan, I'm not an illustrator. I'm a collector, and I'm someone who loves art. So when I see it grow, I have nothing but smiles, right? The only thing, I don't see anything but awesome art and more of it, which is great. But from an industry standpoint, you can of course see like people have to change, and then they have to deal with that change. They have to deal with new groups on the scene, and you know, whether people are doing unlicensed work or licensed work, whether people are selling unlicensed work versus licensed work. And I know that that's become a very big point of contention within the alternative poster art industry. And I mean, I kind of feel bad as a fan, just kind of washing my hands of it and just saying it's not that is not my business. As long as there's awesome art coming out that I love, I'm going to buy it. But I totally understand artists of all different, you know, certain artists have reached certain points in their career where they're very, very comfortable. And, you know, if they start to see a lot of new art come on the scene, that might be frightening, right? Because now there's a lot more competition. Whereas other artists who are at a lower level and they're not very well known yet see opportunities. So it's a juggling act like any other industry, right? To struggle to compete as you see it grow. I mean, it's the same thing with independent filmmaking. I mean, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to make this film at the quality that I'm able to make it, because the camera that I'm using would have cost $17,000 or something. You know what I mean? It would have been totally out of my price range. But now you're able to get them. It's a lot easier to be an independent filmmaker. So even if you follow film blogs, there's people who are like freaking out, and it's like, oh, now any hack with a camera can make a movie. But it's the same thing with art. I like to think that the market will decide, and the people will decide what is to be valued and where the merits are. So.
What you said there about the industry in general, about industries, is that, you know, you touched on something that, like you said, like it happens in film, it's happening with poster art, and you see it anywhere else. Without giving away too much, with your interview, with all the interviews that you've conducted so far, what are some of the things that you've gleaned from the artists that you just had no idea was actually happening in this industry?
One of the things that I found really interesting is the way that likeness rights are dealt with. And a big part of, and this extends far past just screen printed art, but likeness rights, even for one of the big reasons that people cite for studios using kind of photography-based or Photoshop-based art a lot more than illustration is because there is a lot of control from actors around their appearance. So it's a lot easier to take a photograph and Photoshop someone's blemishes away than it is to have, you know, an exact hand-drawn illustration that the actor, or in a lot of cases it's not even the actor, it's their agents, you know, might be happy with. And that extends, to my knowledge, from what I understand, and I'm still learning a lot, that extends, you know, past the studios and official studio release art into you know, officially licensed screen prints as well, right? Where sometimes you won't even be able to get a likeness. There are certain posters out there that, and you can use your imagination. I don't want to name any offhand, just because I don't know if I would be breaking any trust barriers or whatever. But there's some where you'll see just a title and maybe you know, a landscape with someone's, you know, back in the distance. It would be a really great design, but you notice that there's no iconic face there. There's no actor's face or something like that. And in a lot of cases, it's likely because they couldn't get the likeness rights to the actor or actress themselves in order to print it out on the screen print and release it. Other times it's just a design decision. I mean, the only people who really know for each poster which one it would be the I guess the actors or their agents, the poster artists, and whichever company commissioned it.
Wow, I had no clue. I always wondered about that with certain movie posters. You take a look at, you know, Drew Struzan's work, and he's able to replicate, you know, his portraiture is just amazing. And then you see some other stuff, maybe the same movies, and it's like, huh, they're either showing an iconic scene, something that someone always already knew about, or they go the complete like minimalist route, and they're just like, here's some text, here's a Viola color, and then they're done. So I always wondered about that. That's interesting.
Yeah, sometimes it's a design decision. Sometimes it's even outside of the hands of the actors or actresses themselves. It depends on It depends on a lot of factors. Could depend on what's in the original film contract, right? I mean, let's say for instance, I'm just gonna pick a movie off my shelf. Let's go with Citizen Kane because it's easy, and no one's made a poster to my knowledge that infringes on any Citizen Kane copyrights. So let's say originally in Citizen Kane, well, this wouldn't be the case because he was all over production direction, but let's say he wasn't. Let's say Orson Welles was just a hired actor, and in his contract it said that the studio owns his likeness for any and all you know, marketing material rights. Then the studio would be able to say, if they were, you know, if they were giving the license to Grey Matter or Mondo or whoever, the studio would say, yes, you can use Orson Welles' license. Whereas in another case, if the actor entered into a contract for the film where they, you know, kept the rights to their likeness, or, you know, they had it back after so many years or whatever, then it would be up to the actor's agency or the actor themselves.
That is really cool. That's, I think, a lot of new artists coming into it, and just people who are interested. You know, like you and I, we're not actually creating the posters, but we're fans, we're collectors, and, you know, we're on the periphery of it. We would have never thought, we would have never, you know, guessed that. We've always kind of questioning that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and along the way, with all the different people I've spoken with, I mean, I'm always learning something new, which is a great thing about documentary. I mean, it starts out as an idea, and you have a general timeline for it, but as you speak with people, that's when the story really starts to come together, because you know, new threads come up, and you can follow them and find out where they lead. So, you know, your next set of questions for the next artist you interview might be entirely different based on the answers that you got from the previous artist. and that's really how the story comes together, as it should, in my opinion, because it's a very organic process. I really love that about it.
That's really cool.
And
so, Kevin, do you have any stories that you can share in terms of some of the artists that you've interviewed? Like, what was your longest interview that you've done?
Longest interview? Wow. You know what? Probably our first interview with Gary Pullen, actually, the very first interview, the one that kind of led to the film, because at that time we still hadn't decided that we were going to make the film yet. It was just kind of for this short 20-minute reel that we were going to create, and it was just amazing. I was so in awe of like being there in his apartment and finding out that he was such a cool guy, and like he had all of his amazing art all over the walls, and like for a fan of this art, it was just so huge for me. And I think part of me subconsciously, maybe I just didn't want to leave, so we kept asking questions. But yeah, it went. The interview went on for quite a while. We got a ton of amazing insight, a lot of great footage. I learned a ton, and again, that's kind of what sparked the whole idea for this film, was Gary Pullen and my fiance, and this one big interview. And then from there, I mean, we've learned to throughout the course of production, right? Especially when we're filming out of town, things have to be condensed. You have to know what questions you're going to ask, and then of course you'll take some extra time where you need to really explore things, because I want to make sure that we get as much insight and information from everyone as we can. But that was definitely the longest, and that was a great deal of fun. And in Toronto, it's easier to do longer interviews too. We had a really lengthy, great process interview with Jason Edmiston, and he showed us the way that he uses transparencies to create new colors. So in a screen print, you figure you've got, you know, the company who licenses you to create the screen print might say, okay, well, you've got 5, you can make this a 5-color screen print. If you ever look at Jason Edmiston's prints, they look like they're a million colors. Like one that comes to mind is Killer Clowns from Outer Space that Scuzzles released, that he did, and it's just mind-blowing. And it's only, I think it's only like 6 or 7 colors, but it looks like millions. But when he took us through the process, and he showed us how a lot of that just has to do with, you know, leveling your transparency and laying it over another color to create a new one in certain areas. It's just, it's ingenious. And again, it's one of those things that I never would have thought of. Of course, I'm not an artist. I mean, I don't know. This might be, if there's any artists watching, they might be like, oh yeah, well, no shit. But for me, it was really, it was really, really interesting to get that kind of insight into the process. And same with, you know, Justin Erickson and Paige Reynolds of Phantom City Creative showed us a ton of cool stuff. We got some really great insight into the way that Justin works and the way that he creates posters. And of course, Matt Ryan Tobin and Paul Ainsworth, who are just awesome dudes. They created the screen prints for our Kickstarter campaign, and that we've been using for the film, which is super exciting. We already got Matt's design printed, and it looks absolutely beautiful in person. And we're getting Paul's shipped in from Rural Rooster in Austin pretty soon. It was Ironclad Graphics here in Ontario that did Matt's. But yeah, really great insight from them as well. We got to spend a lot of time with them and kind of follow them around and get an idea of how they live too, which is very important to me to tell the story that, like, these are real people. Like, I don't want a movie that's full of just talking heads for an hour and a half kind of, you know, talking at you. I mean, we want to tell a story that people can relate to and understand that these are guys creating amazing work are just, you know, they're real human beings. They've got jobs, they've got families. Matt Tobin's in like a kick-ass rock band. We're gonna go film one of his band practices. So yeah, it's really cool. But we've
Awesome.
yeah, it's been great. We've made a lot of friends along the way. I'm in an axe throwing league with Justin Erickson. We just threw last night.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a really amazing experience, and as much as it's been a lot of hard work, and I'm kind of like, man, I can't wait till it's over and I have a finished product. I also, you know, I don't want it to end because it's been such a great time.
Well, let's talk about that a minute. Let's talk about the finished product.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's still in production, but how do you go about sitting down and picking those best moments out of all of that footage, all of the what I'm assuming is going to be some amazing footage? You know, how do you go about sitting down and cutting some of that out? And okay, you know, I want to use this section here, but this section's also pretty cool. Like how does that work for you? What's your thought process with that?
Well, it's interesting. It's a lot of different parts. I've been an editor, actually. I've been a video editor for 8 years. When I was in film school, it was the first thing that I really latched onto and that I really enjoyed. You know, since that time, I've gotten into cinematography and producing documentary. But it was really like editing was my first love when it came to film, and I really think that editors are hugely underappreciated in the film industry because they do exactly that. They really craft the story together from just tons and tons and tons and tons of footage. For instance, a great example is Quentin Tarantino's editor who passed away right before Django Unchained. Her name was Sally Mankey, and insanely iconic work. I mean, you look at any Tarantino movie. She did all of his films, and that, you know, those quick cuts, the lingering shots that stick just long enough to make you feel uncomfortable. That's all Sally Mankey's handiwork. And despite, you know, Tarantino's great writing and everything else, just to use him as an example, it really was Sally Mankey who was a huge part of those films, like, in my opinion, a lot of editors. And so, as much as the story comes together from maybe asking the right questions or kind of asking guided questions that might kind of steer the conversation in a certain direction, once you sit down in the editing room and you have hours and hours of footage to comb through, the first thing that you're doing is you're just watching it. You're watching it all over again, taking notes anytime you hear you know, a good soundbite or something interesting, and then it's all just like a mess of brainstorming. Like, my office looks like the you know, the garage from A Beautiful Mind, with just stuff stuck all over the place and like strings leading one place to another, and I like, ultimately that's how it all comes together. So yeah, it's a matter of it doesn't have to be told linearly. I don't know if we're going to go that route or not yet, because post-production hasn't started, but you know, we've got a lot of time jumps to make because we're dealing with stuff from, you know, Richard Amsel, John Alvin, and Bob Peake in the 70s and 80s to you know, stuff in the 90s where things really started to change, and, you know, all the way to now and like the new poster art and alternative poster art. So, well, I mean, we're going to be bouncing back and forth, and it's, you can already tell as I'm rambling that the editing process is really, it's a really strange process. It's a messy process, but it's very much alive, you know, if that makes any sense.
I think, Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, it does make sense. You know, I'm a graphic designer,
That's what I was going to say.
and Tim is also a graphic designer, and so you know, I think that we understand to an extent how changes and revisions and things of that nature have to happen. You know, whether you like it or not. I mean, there's some things where you don't want to revise a design. You have to for, you know, to make the client happy and whatnot. I do think that as a filmmaker, it's got to be much more difficult to make those cuts when really, I mean, you're almost the client. You know, you're shooting it, but you have such a deep appreciation for it, for the subject matter, that you know you just want to put everything on film. You know, and I can understand. You know, it's got to be painful, I'm sure, once post production starts to have to make some of those cuts.
For sure, and that's you know, that's definitely one of the hardest parts of both filming it and editing it. You know, whereas in a lot of cases, if I was going out and just shooting the film and then handing it over to an editor, I might be there in the editing room, but I'd have someone, you know, in charge of that post-production to say, you know, this just doesn't fit with the story. As much as you loved that shot, sometimes you just get, you know, a beautiful shot that you've taken in the gallery, and you just think, wow, this is going to look amazing. And you just have to leave it behind because it doesn't fit with where the story is going or with the pacing. And the same thing goes for, you know, a lot of answers to a lot of questions. I mean, it's the fact is, everyone who we've talked to is so immensely talented, and they have so much insight into, you know, their personal process and their inspirations, that I would love to make a film about every single one of them, but we have only so much time that we can get people into, you know, to sit down on Netflix and watch something, or, you know, who knows, maybe a movie theater if we're lucky, fingers crossed. But so it's, yeah, you always have those bits where you love what's there, but you know once it gets to the edit, it might not fit into the story, and you might have to leave it behind. The great thing about DVD is that you can keep it on the special features and things of that sort. We're going to have a ton of that. So
Nice. That's cool. Sweet.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'm looking forward to definitely looking forward to special features for sure, as well as the movie, of course, because I've been a big vocal you know, person in terms of getting the word out there that the movie's coming, and you know, I think it's going to appeal to a lot of people, not only people that are involved in the scene itself, but also just people that like movies, and people that, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, yes, it's time for Dave to tell a story. When I was a kid, I went to see the first RoboCop movie, and I remember that there was a large stand-up. I don't even know what the technical term is for it, but it was like a cardboard cutout of RoboCop getting out of the police car, and the police car had a working light on it. And I remember begging my father, please go back to the movie theater and ask them if they will give you that stand-up when they're done with it. And sure enough, a month later, 2 months later, whatever it was, here comes the RoboCop stand-up poster into my bedroom.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You know, and I was a kid, so whatever, you know, it was fun for, you know, maybe a few weeks. Then I was like, you know, I'm not feeling this anymore. And now, you know, I'd like to go back in time and beat myself up, because I would love to have that right now, you know, because it was such a great poster. I love that thing. You know, looking back at it now, but you know, I mean, I've always been very into movies. I have the collector mentality. You know, I like I said earlier, I've collected comic books forever. now I'm kind of pushing that off to the side a little bit and getting more into the movie posters. I'm collecting a lot more of those now, and really not so much even movie posters, but just posters in general, illustrated posters. Because I know that there was some discussion. In fact, I think it was maybe the last Adventures in Design podcast that those guys did. They were talking about the difference between the people that go to, say, Flat Stock versus people that go to Mondo Gallery. And kind of touching on the fact that, like, Mondo appeals to really not only people that collect posters because they're a collector, but also because that they remember, and they want to own kind of a piece of that pop culture. Whereas if you go to Flat Stock, you'll see all kinds of different posters. You'll see fine art posters and gig posters and things of that nature, and it's kind of a slightly different clientele. In your opinion, Kevin, do you see kind of a line there between, like, the people that collect just for the collectability of, say, Mondo versus people that buy from other companies like Gray Matter Art or Odd City or whatnot? I mean, do you see there's kind of a line between, like, the film poster people versus people that just they'll buy kind of any poster that they really like the artwork for?
I don't know. I think that there's a lot of lines in that vein, right? I mean, there will be some guys who just collect gig posters, but they love Ken Taylor's gig posters so much that they'll allow that to extend into movie posters by Ken Taylor, for instance, right? And then they'll snag some of those. And then there are definitely people who just love screen printing. I mean, screen printing is an art in and of itself. It's an absolutely amazing, stunning process. The way that they do it, and there are definitely people who just love the ink. Like, they love to feel it, and if it's a great design, then yeah, they're gonna pick it up. Whether it's a pop culture movie poster, whether it's like Russ Moore is a really incredible artist who does a lot of video game inspired screen prints that are just incredible. And that kind of art really appeals to me too. I've got a Tracy Ching War of the Worlds print based on the book, which is absolutely beautiful. And I've seen quite a few prints actually like that. Nautilus, which is another company who does some great work, they're about to release one based on an H.G. Wells book called The First Men in the Moon, which is one of my favorite books, and I intend to sit there, hit and refresh until I can pick that up. But yeah, so I think that the great thing about this art is that there are so many different reasons to get into it. And there's something for everybody. Whether you're a movie lover, whether you're a gamer, whether you're strictly into horror, you might be strictly into horror and only collect the horror poster art. You might be only into sci-fi and just get the sci-fi art. Now, if you're a big book nerd like me, you might get the prints based on literature. But as far as and even within that, there's always going to be. I love espresso beans for a lot of reasons. For being able to trade on there and check out new art and chat with people. But then there's also, you get to experience, because of the anonymity, the different hierarchies of collectorship, or the imposed hierarchies of collectorship, where people are always just dropping knowledge bombs or shitting on someone because they don't know enough about this kind of art or whatever. But that sort of thing is going to happen with any sort of anonymous community. So I mean, yeah, you're gonna get all collectors of all different kinds and colors and stripes, but I do think ultimately, just like the artists, everyone unites around art. If I love movie posters and only movie posters, I'm still gonna get along great with the guy who only buys gig posters, because what we still have in common is the poster, right? If I only buy screen print and another guy only buys old one sheets from Italian giallo films, I'm still going to get along with him because we have the poster in common. So it's that sort of thing, I think, that really keeps opens up the opportunity for everybody to really come together and have a great time at an event like Flatstock. And if a lot of the people who love to go to Flatstock and frequent Flatstock want to go to the Mondo Gallery or the Hero Complex Gallery or Spoke Art or Bottleneck in New York, then all the power to them, man. I love every time I meet another collector. It's an experience just like this. It's just a bunch of dudes nerding out, or ladies too, nerding out over stuff that they love. So, I mean, I dig it.
Yeah, very true. And by the way, Tracy Ching, amazing stuff. Amazing.
Yeah, she's awesome. Really awesome. Actually, we're speaking with her in August when we travel through the States. We're going to be dropping by and interviewing Tracy as well, which I'm really excited for. I'm a huge fan of her work. Her Doctor Strangelove print is my biggest ISO in search of right now. So if anybody's watching and you have that print, you can make some money out of it.
I will tell you my biggest ISO right now.
Please do.
My biggest ISO right now is Ken Taylor's Man of Steel.
Awesome.
Like when I saw that poster, okay, and here's another story. When I saw that poster, I got emotional because I was like, it's such a beautiful poster. To me, to me personally, it's like it just says everything that needs to be said about like the whole Superman mythos to me, And I was like, I've got to get that poster. I do not have it yet. It is my biggest ISO. Right before that poster, my biggest ISO was Ken's American Werewolf in London poster. And I just happened, as luck would have it, I happened to be on Posters and Toys when the morning that they put up a few APs of it, and I was able to get one, and I was like running downstairs and yelling to my girlfriend, I got it, and she's like, I don't understand what you're talking about.
Awesome, man. And you know what?
She's like, you're the big...
Those lucky days and those lucky finds like that, I mean, that's what it's all about. You mentioned earlier that you think that the film will appeal to just movie lovers in general, and I really hope that that's the case. Like just like art lovers, like you had that experience with the RoboCop standee as well, right? And then years later, you have this great experience where you end up lucking out on this Ken Taylor poster. And I don't doubt that there's something in the feeling in both of those different experiences at different points in your life that were similar in a lot of ways. And ultimately, a lot of that comes down to a love of movies, and that's another thing that we really hope to do. Is I want collectors and people who love this art to really enjoy the film. I'm definitely making the movie for them, but I also want the collector who doesn't yet know that they're a collector to have this film kind of spark something in them that says, wow, this is really awesome, and I want to pick it up. Because, I mean, if you guys collect screen prints, you've probably introduced them to at least one or two friends who are then just like on it like clockwork, and some of them might even have a bigger collection than you do at this point. And I find that happens a lot. And I just want to see more illustration related to film ultimately come out of it. And I think that what you guys are doing with I Got Birds is huge and amazing. I love your blog, and I think that you know, you're doing so much to showcase art and artists and people who are creating this sort of work that you know, it's really amazing stuff that you guys are doing.
Thank you for that compliment, Kevin. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you know, I love the blog. I love doing it. It's you know, it's definitely a labor of love for me. So I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, it's, you know, it's here to stay. And you know, like you and I were talking a little bit before the broadcast. You know, I like to feature kind of a wide range of people that are involved in the illustration scene. So it's not only people that are established, but also people that, you know, are up and coming, and people that might be brand new to the scene. I mean, I remember I interviewed Robert Bruno, who is a really talented. This was right before he kind of started getting noticed and started getting big, and you know, now, I mean, you know, he's got a contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, he's doing artwork for them. He's doing, you know, still with the movie posters, and he's a member of Poster Posse, and you know, he's just blowing up. And it's really awesome for me to be able to talk to these guys kind of as they're coming up through the scene and getting some popularity and being noticed. You know, I think it's great for them. It's great for the scene in general.
Yeah, it's really incredible to get to see a lot of your famous artists hit, or a lot of your favorite artists, I should say, hit milestones in their career along the way. I'm a really huge fan of Paul Ainsworth, and he's become a friend of mine in working on this film. And just today he made a post about you know, a lot of the big talk that's been going on about his Burbs print that was at Hero Complex Gallery on EB, which was a big, he mentioned in his post, a big milestone for him, which is just so awesome. And I love to see that, because it's, you know, these artists they're so talented, and they only become more talented with you know, the more art that they're able to produce. And the only way that artists can produce more is if they're getting noticed. It's like any other art, right? So it's like a vicious circle. So you like to see people hit milestones, because then it lets you know that you have more to look forward from them in the future, you know?
Yeah, I feel like if I lived in Canada, I would be hanging out with Paul. For sure. He seems like that kind of guy, you know.
If you ever get a chance to come down to Canada and visit in Toronto, I'll throw a barbecue, and we'll all get together and you know, have some beers and hang out. That would be rad. We've got actually Paul and Matt and I are going to be at Fan Expo in Toronto. We've all got booths side by side, which is like, it's like the Canadian Comic-Con, which is that's such a weird thing to say, the Canadian Comic-Con, but it's become a really huge event here in Toronto. And then of course, you know, Phantom City Creative is going to be there. Jason Edmiston, Gary Pullen's going to be there. Andrew Wright, who is the current art director for Rue Morgue magazine, a job formerly held by both Justin Erickson and Gary Pullen. Andrew Wright is a really amazing artist. If you ever get a chance to check his stuff out, really great guy too. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of cool local talent here in Toronto the last weekend of August. So, but even outside of that, come to Toronto anytime and give me a call, and you know, we'll throw some beers back and eat a bunch of greasy food.
I got to get that passport ready. That's what's keeping me, that passport.
Do it, man. Do it.
Yeah, my girlfriend's reminding me I need to get my photo retaken for it and get it updated. But yeah, Toronto's on my list. So there's just a lot of great talent coming out of Canada. There's a designer I like, Paul Jarvis, who is like a master on Medium all the time. He's posting a lot of great stuff for like young designers coming up in the field. The guy is just eloquent. He's funny, and he's got 2 pet rats. I was always hanging out with him. Like he's my kind of dude. So. But
Awesome.
yeah, there's some great artists in Canada that I've been following a lot lately, and they've just been fantastic. I'm just a designer and developer in Pennsylvania, and they're like, hey, cool stuff. I'm like, whoa, neat. So
You know, it's funny. I'm amazed that we still don't have a gallery dedicated entirely to film art. Like you've got tons of galleries in Austin that are doing it. You've got Bottleneck in New York, Gallery 1988, and Hero Complex in LA, among others. Spoke Art in San Francisco. I mean, with all the talent here in Toronto, I'm amazed that there isn't a gallery dedicated to it. I don't know.
We're still talking about it. We're going to put the seed into some people's minds for it. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's that I don't think there's going to be any lack of awesome art coming out of Toronto over the next half decade or decade anyway. So hopefully somebody will get on that because I will spend a lot of money there.
sounds like another Kickstarter campaign, viewers. So
Yeah, maybe.
that's awesome.
So Kevin, we are about to wrap up here. And I wanted to get in maybe 1 or 2 final questions for you.
Sure.
One is, when do you foresee the movie coming out? For people that don't know about the Kickstarter campaign and haven't heard about the movie, you wanna pitch it a little bit? Give us a little pitch on the movie.
Yes, absolutely. So 24 by 36, a film about film poster art, is probably about, I would say, 80 to 85% of the way through production right now. So we've got a big trip coming up in August to capture some more footage. We will be capturing some more in late September or early October, I'm hoping. We're still working out the travel plans for when we'll be going to the UK to speak with a lot of really talented artists. The dude designs, Tom Hodge. Jock, wow, again, way too many to name. Matt Ferguson, who I love. Dolly, Patrick Conan, who I think is just awesome and has been killing it lately. Again, too many to name. There's just so many. We'll be posting updates and stuff online as well. Then we go into post-production, and I intend to have the film completely wrapped up with a nice little bow and ready to send to festivals and as soon as January 1st, 2015. So we're going to be running the festival circuit throughout the first quarter, possibly leading into the first half of 2015. And then after that, it'll be up to any distributors who might be interested in picking up the film where it goes from there. But people will definitely, I would say near definitely be able to see it in 2015 in some way, shape, or form. If you're in Austin, maybe you'll see it at South by Southwest, if we can get it in there. If you're around Utah, you might see it in Sundance. If you're in Toronto, maybe Hot Docs. But we're going to be shopping it to a lot of festivals. But the film will be complete and ready to market by 2015.
Very cool. Very cool.
I'm pumped.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Any final questions for Kevin?
I got like tons of notes. Like every time I sit down and do one of these interviews, I just have like an entire layout bond pad like full of notes, and it just gives me so much inspiration. So just let us know where can like people find you at. Like what's your online interwebs connections? Like people can find you on Twitter.
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter. we just go through our production company name. It's at PostNoJoes1, PostNoJoes1 is the name of our production company. We post all the updates through there. You can also, of course, visit www.24by36.com, all alphabetic, no digits. And we're actually going to be launching a new website soon, and keep an eye out for a new trailer that's probably going to be dropping soon with some more new footage in it. I expect to have that cut probably within the next month or so. Things have been really busy, but that'll be dropping there soon. And you can reach out to us through 24by36.com. If you're a collector and you just want to chat about art, send me a message, man, for sure. If you have any questions about the film, send me a message. I'm more than happy to answer. All that stuff on 24by36.com goes directly to me. And you know, I always love getting emails and hearing that people are as interested in the film as I am. And you know, we've had so much incredible support from everyone in the post-art community, and not just, of course, artists and the people that we've interviewed or gallery owners, but guys like yourselves, bloggers, and collectors and fans, you know, who every once in a while just drop us a line and say, hey, I'm so glad you guys are making this film. And yeah, we intend to make it worth everyone's while. So
nice. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to talk to us. And you know, I also want to thank you once again for being an inspiration for me to start I Got Birds. And we're going to post links to everything that we can post links to on YouTube once the video goes over there. And, you know, I wish you continued success with shooting the film and post-production and getting it out there and touring the festival circuit.
Cool. Well, Dave, thank you so much. And if I had, that means a lot. If I had any part in helping you get I Got Birds going, then wow, that's amazing, because you know, I check the blog every day, and you guys are knocking it out of the park. So keep up the great work yourself, and you know, we'll chat again for sure. Thanks,
Absolutely.
guys. Tim, great to meet you too.
Yeah, man, Kevin, this has been great. You know, every time I sit in one of these interviews and I get to talk, like, I just learn so much more about the scene, about the industry, and about what people are doing. And like what you said earlier about actually, you know, telling the story of these artists. These guys and gals are just like anybody else. They're just trying to, you know, they're making a living. They're doing this stuff each day, and that to me is just so great to see, because then it's inspirational for everybody else. It's like, yeah, I want to get into this. Oh, these guys, they must be doing, like, they must have like this crazy high lifestyle. No, they're just like us. So, you know, for myself, I appreciate the fact that this movie is going to be coming out. You're going to be showcasing all the amazing talent, and, you know, and telling their story as people and as artists. So, you know, thanks very much for doing this tonight. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
Killer.
Have a right night.
Take care.
All right, see ya, Kevin.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.